everybody, and welcome to day 3 of the SPL play-in tournament. We've already sent a couple of teams home, and we're going to be sending a couple of more teams home today, especially in our first couple of sets. We're going to be starting things off in the losers bracket, and then we'll be going back up to the upper side bracket to see who's going to have our 2 teams to move on to the finals tomorrow in order to have that chance to qualify into the SPL. But my name is J Mac Tucker. Joining me on the desk for set number 1 is going to be Gorham Miser. We're going to have Samsara and JUSTF6 as our starting match of the day. And as I said, we're going to be sending one of these 2 teams home.
Yeah, it's actually, I didn't even think about it, but it is 2 teams home today and then 2 teams that will be playing in a promo match for their spot tomorrow. Like, that is absolutely nuts to put a lot more pressure, I think, on those last 2 matches of the day. But you had mentioned it. These 2, you know, we got to see Samsara play a little bit yesterday. We got to see JUSTF6 play JUSTF6 in an elimination match yesterday, and they looked really, really good. Granted, they were playing up against a team that they had spent 3 years playing against at that point, so it was something that was a little more common for them. Samsara maybe a little more unknown to them. It's going to make things a lot more spicy down here with the pressure on for one team and then the continued pressure that JUSTF6 is feeling.
It's almost kind of like a revenge match more than anything for JUSTF6 because Samsara is the one who sent their scrim partners down into the losers bracket, and then JUSTF6 unfortunately had to eliminate them after that. So maybe a little bit of vengeance here for JUSTF6 kind of going up against Samsara. And Samsara has had a pretty strong performance so far throughout this tournament. Had an unfortunate loss on day number 2 just yesterday. And now they're going to have to fight for their tournament lives out here. And that's kind of the name of the game for these first 2 sets. And then the 2 sets afterwards, obviously, as we move up into the upper bracket, they'll still have a little bit of leniency. But it will be Samsara JUSTF6 for our first one. And then nobody's favorite in the neighborhood. After a long-winded set yesterday, the neighborhood were able to pull out their 2-0 victory. And then we'll have Oni Homies and Fun Havers, Duck Club, and Winter Dogs. Probably the set of the day to be watching out there for that upper side of the bracket.
That last one.
Because there's going to be a lot on the line specifically. Again, they want to stay up in the upper bracket, puts them 1 set closer to qualifying to the SPL. But specifically, I think this is going to be one of our closest matchups in that upper bracket up until we get at least into that best of 5.
And I think it's also worth, because you mentioned it, this is the last day of only best of 3s. We got best of 5s tomorrow and Sunday. That's going to be very fun to watch. And there's so much pressure. I mean, you could tell me that Winter Dogs and Duck Club is going to happen either. It could have happened there in the top semifinals for a promo match, could be happening in the losers round 4 promo match, and I'd believe you, right? Like, this is a matchup that I think is likely to be seen a lot, and honestly, one of these teams not making it is really going to be surprising, depending on how things go, right? Because theoretically, you could have one win here, and then win their semifinals, and then one go through the lower bracket and get a run. So it's still possible for them both to make it there. But it's going to be really difficult, and there's a lot, like, even looking at just today, I mean, there's still a lot of really strong teams that are available for this, and it's not going to get any easier as the day goes on. It's not going to get any easier when you wake up tomorrow, so it really is going to be a lot, and these 2 teams have a lot going for them just because what we got to see out of them yesterday, I think, was a really good invigoration for JUSTF6, but also a good showing. It was a 2-0 that Samsara lost, and it still looked pretty decent for them, at least in game 1.
Yeah, I mean, one of those things there for Samsara, kind of talking about this team, their matchup against the Oni Homies, they were winning fights. They were doing really well early game. They were beating the Oni Homies in every single team fight for the first 10, 15 minutes of the game. The biggest downside for them was just that they weren't able to get their farm game up. They weren't able to keep up that same level of macro play that the Oni Homies were, and that just comes, again, from a little bit of their lack of veteranship, a lack of, that top level of play there. But now they are going back up against JUSTF6, a team kind of in a similar position as them, where they don't have kind of that top end of play just yet, more towards that SCC kind of level of play here. But now we kind of get to see how these 2 teams battle out, because it was a win for Samsara. It was a 2-1 over Thunderhead for them. And then now JUSTF6 get a pretty strong 2-0 over them. Yeah. So this might even be a closer matchup than we had between these last teams.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited to see this. I think yesterday we got to see a closer formation. Like, now that they've had 2 sets under their belts, I think Samsara is, like, getting better with each set we've seen so far. And I think that what we saw yesterday is a very interesting position, because not a lot of teams are able to have as many successful team fights against, first off, an SPL roster, right? But also doing that against a team that has a 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, and then higher gold lead and still consistently beating them in these team fights. I do have to say, I want to shout out Privative specifically because I think it was the Athena on the first day. Yesterday was that Ganesh in game one. Like, there are a lot of moments where I think this team has had, some opportunities that were created by the support, and you get to see that from Snatty. You get to see Jangaru going crazy. Like, everybody on this team has had their moments so far this weekend, and I'm really excited to what they're going to be able to do in this set.
There's one player that's also had a lot of really nice moments this weekend. It's been the Hunter player for this team. We do have Shinigami standing by for our pregame interview. You've had some pretty strong pop-off moments so far this week. A couple of nice solo kills up previously. You knocked out Thunderhead, brought them down to the losers bracket, and now you have to face the team that beat them in the losers bracket. So another kind of EU team. Any expectations going up against them?
Well, I'm expecting a lot of pressure from them. We respect them as a team, so we're just gonna go in there and do our thing. But I think we're gonna play well.
So we kind of got to see, the EU versus EU meta yesterday, kind of some new and interesting kind of flavor picks pop out there. Do you expect maybe to see some more of that today?
I don't think they really have much else to show. I think they've really stuck to what they are comfortable with. But I think we've made adjustments from last game, so we're prepared to show you something.
Yeah, a bit of a rough one there against the Oni Homies. You guys had some really good fights. Maybe just a little bit onto the farm play. Is that something that you guys have kind of been talking about maybe in some VOD review coming into this game?
Yep, for sure. Yeah, farming better, just looking at the map and trying to capitalize because there's so much on the map.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot out there. Well, thank you so much for standing by for the pregame interview. I'll let you get back with the team. Good luck.
Of course, thank you.
A little bit more confidence, and I think that's really what you want, and especially for all the teams in this tournament. It's something that, kind of Coach Alpha of JUSTF6, and we'll talk to him a little bit later, really talked about. And this tournament is a learning experience for a lot of these teams. For some of these people, it's the first time they've ever come to a LAN. It's the first time they've gotten to play in a tournament of this size and really of this kind of insane pressure. I mean, you are literally playing for a career at this point. But even if you don't get wins out here, even being able to just get a couple of games under your belt, kind of learn what it's like to play at this top level, and then improving from there, that really does seem to be the name of the game for a lot of teams.
And I think being able to test your mettle, not just against a bunch of teams Samsara hasn't necessarily been around as in any competition against JUSTF6 before, right? And so this is going to be something where you're like, okay, how do you adapt to a new opponent? How do you see what they're doing throughout the set? Things like that. I think that what we've seen from Samsara, though, is going to be not necessarily a reckoning for JUSTF6, but definitely a new challenge for them, right? Because this is a team that, like you said, 3 games in day number 1, although when you look at day number 1, the second game, they definitely said they were experimenting. Game 3, they came in and controlled very heavily what they did against Thunderhead. And again, while they were going up against Oni Homies, despite a gold loss, there's a point, and I think there's an alternate universe where they potentially win game number 1 just based off of team fight later on. And I think that that's going to be something JUSTF6 have to take into account. But if you look at what JUSTF6 did yesterday, they had the fastest game that we've seen in a technical SPL branded tournament in 3 years. I mean, it was 1742 I think for last year, and something very, very similar. 43 last year, and then 1742 in season 7 for SPL games and their speed, and they managed to get it just around that time. It was just a very dominant performance, and exactly what you want to see. Granted, they know Thunderhead really well, so they knew the style that they were going to be playing into, but it's got to be refreshing, right? You're in an elim match, you get a 2-0 win, you do it against, admittedly some friends, but that you have what you can show, right? And you've seen what your top level can look like. And so if this JUSTF6 shows up today, then I think Samsara are going to have a run for their money.
I mean, not just the fastest game there in game number 1, but one of the bloodiest matches that we've also seen this weekend. I mean, constant fighting, moment after moment in game number 1. I mean, from minute 1, not even minute 1, I'd say 30 seconds into the game. Once players hit the lanes, I mean, both these teams hit the ground running. Game number 2, I mean, we saw 10 kills by 11 minutes in game number 1, and then all of a sudden that doubled in the next 6. We saw, I think, 15 kills by 8 minutes in the second game. I mean, it was insane how much action went through, and it kind of felt like we were watching more of an NA-SCC match, because that's the kind of style those guys like to play. And it's so interesting here, because that's one thing that their coach here for JUSTF6 was talking about was we now have seen what their meta is, and we need to make that adaptation. I'd say after a set like yesterday, they've been able to find that adaptation.
I actually think that that's actually a really important note, right? Because, you know, you look at the gods they're playing in this matchup, right, in this game, and, like, Maskil playing the Circuit was a huge improvement. Circuit has been, like, really, really big so far this weekend. But I also think that Discordia for Sotos, I think we've seen a lot of Soul, and I wouldn't mind seeing Sotos go back to that. But, like, there's been a lot of picks that were just to the side of where they were picking. And after watching what they were capable of doing, I'd love to see them now take it up against a team like Samsara.
Well, last time that we kind of got to talk to this team, we did get to talk to the coach. We got a lot of insightful information, so we decided to bring him back one more time. Coach Alpha standing by for the pregame interview here for JUSTF6. You know, kind of tell us about that set yesterday. You know, when we talked to you, you know, day number 1, you're like, you know, we got to figure out what this meta is. After seeing a set like that yesterday, it kind of seems like you guys have dialed in that North American style.
Yeah, coming into the first set, I think we were a bit blinded because we didn't know what most teams were prioritizing. But after seeing all the games in day one, we had a better idea of what was good and what was going to be played. So we made some adjustments to our playstyle, and I think that turned out pretty well. I think it's unlucky that we had to face our European friends so early in the tournament because it was really a matchup that we were looking forward to playing in. But now against Samsara, let's see how it goes.
Yeah, now that you are kind of the lone torch, you know, the lone team left here of the EU region, you know, how does it feel kind of being the ones to hold the torch to try and move on in this tournament?
We basically want to play for ourselves, and we want to know, we want to prove that we are a good team in this tournament. And obviously, also we want to avenge our Spanish friends in Thunderhead, which lost to Samsara on day 1. So it's also going for them if we win today, which I think we will.
Well, I'm very excited to see what you guys can pull out here in this game. I'll let you get back with the team. Thanks for standing by and good luck.
Thank you so much.
You got to avenge their brethren. And that's one thing that we kind of talked about coming into this set. You know, Samsara knocks down Thunderhead in day number 1. And now, you know, JUSTF6 has to play them yesterday. Unfortunately, they had to knock them out. But now they get their vengeance. Now they get their chance to avenge their fallen EU brethren here and trying to take down Samsara. And I think, you know, kind of talking to them, day 1 was a little bit of a blind side for them. They're not really sure what to expect coming out of here for a lot of these very aggressive players and these very aggressive teams. But it seems that they've kind of figured it out. I think one of the big ones to talk about is this Circuit. It has been one of the most dangerous gods that have kind of popped up here in this week. And sure, we've seen Amaterasu, we've seen Kabrakan kind of make these, you know, surprise rise-ups here. But I really feel that this Circuit has been a game changer for so many teams, Gore.
And you have to think about it. You know, when you look at like the Oni homies, if you look at Winter Dogs, like it's not too uncommon to think of Circuit with them, especially when you look at Cuvo because he loves playing that god. But when you look at some of these other teams, it was okay. If this is going to be the meta, which as we've seen for at least for JUSTF6, adapting to land meta is a huge deal, right? Coming in day 1 and being unsure of what's going to happen, and then seeing what everybody's playing, it transitions. I mean, even I bet tomorrow we're going to end up seeing some more interesting picks than what we've seen over the last 3 days or so. And so it's going to create a conversation of how well they can adapt to that as time goes forward. But, you know, Circuit has been big. Jengaru played it 3 games in a row on day number 1 and looked fantastic on every single one of them. I think being first pick here and having a pick like that available is going to be a big deal for either of these teams. I think it's just an immediate boost to them. Amaterasu's been pretty big on the terms of priority. I still think Yamoja deserves to be up there, although we've definitely seen her slipping down a little bit further. It just depends on what style of play. A lot more assassin supports. Fenrir has been going over there quite a bit. And so it depends on the aggressive style that they want to bring. I actually have loved Samsara's non-assassins more than any. Like, if I look at Privative, again, that Athena game and that Ganesh game just stand out in my mind. If you do anything like that against JUSTF6, they are going to struggle.
Well, speaking of Yamoja and a couple of these other assassins and other gods thrown out here, first bands coming out in picks and bans of game number 1. Izanami Bastet for JUSTF6, Gilgamesh Yamoja on the side of Samsara. We'll go ahead and throw that Circuit out there, JUSTF6. As strong as Maskil looked on it, doesn't seem that that's the priority that they want, at least for a first pick. Kind of going back to this Fenrir that has been probably the most common non-Guardian support that we have been seeing over there in that duo lane. But instead it will be Iset. Surprisingly enough, a god who has been seeing more flexibility in this tournament than we've seen out of her in such a long time. Iset mids, Iset supports, whichever way you want to go, does not matter because this game it's gone, and it's Amaterasu who has been one of the most heavily prioritized god in picks and bans.
Yeah, she's just so good, man. I mean, she brings so much to the table, and like in any meta where she can come in, you're going to feel a boost in those team fights, right? You've got a really good stun, does decent amount of damage, a nice silence, and of course her passive and being able to apply, like first off, self heals as well. I got to throw that one out there. Any sort of self sustain is always going to be beneficial, but being able to make it so that your carries are going to do a little bit more damage if they're auto attacking, things like that makes it easy. And when you pair that with what we typically see out of JUSTF6, Sodos likes to play Soul, Toddy likes to play any hunter that you throw their way. All of a sudden, Amaterasu kind of rises in terms of stocks for them. Honestly, I'd grab Ama Fafnir if they're going to continue going with the double hunter, because I think that could actually be a really strong team.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised at how many double hunters, and even with this, Ama Soul combo that we've been seeing at this team, that Fafnir has been surprisingly lacking so far in this tournament. But another god that has also been a little bit lacking, Hunbat's being hovered here at the moment. And as soon as I talk about him, of course they're going to go away from it. Instead, it's going to be Horus. After his recent buffs, we've seen a little bit of play, but so far we haven't seen any success. 2 games played, no games won just yet. And so we are seeing Horus and potentially Soul, though there still can be an actual hunter going over towards that lane, because we do know that Sodos does like playing that mage in mid lane. But so far, they're lining up against Cabrakan, Fenrir, and Thoth as a potential core 3v3.
And I love this from Samsara, though, because Cabrakan and Fenrir can each play like 3 or 4 roles if you're Cabrakan. And admittedly, I think it's more common with like the dragons in the SPL to say, like, okay, Fenrir can play solo, because fine, okay, we'll do it. But for most teams, that's not going to happen. Most of the time, it's jungle or support. And so he's got 2 roles under his belt. Cabrakan quite literally just gets thrown around the map sometimes. And it just, Benny Q, I will throw it. If I see him lock it in, it might be mid if it's on that team for Winter Dogs. But here, probably going to be feeling either jungle or support just from what we've seen. Although solo also works out well. Depends on the matchup versus Ama. But you get a Thoth, right? You get a really solid mid laner, someone who's incredibly strong in this meta, plus 2 ambiguous picks. So you have to kind of shotgun blast if you're JUSTF6 as to what you're going to ban. If this ends up being a Cabrakan solo, that Cerberus and those Cerberus ban just hurt you. If it ends up being support, then okay, cool, you limited a little bit of the solo matchup, and specifically the Cerberus because that's helpful, but you still have a super hyper-aggressive guy running around the map. Either way, I think Samsara really did a good job in these top 3.
We did see what Briz got to do yesterday with this Thoth up against the Oni homies, completely erasing Cuvo Fred after he got yanked in by an Ares ultimate right after a Ragnarok. One of the wildest clips to watch out there. But
Miff has watched it like 20 times.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Miff has like tripled the viewer count on that one clip alone, but it's always fantastic to go through. Medusa locked in. After the bans here, Samsara takes away Daji Ho Yi, and then it's Osiris and Cerberus on the opposite side here for JUSTF6. So they're not quite sure exactly where this Cabrakan Fenrir is going, so they're banning a couple of solo laners just to make sure that one of those picks isn't going to be going over there, or if they aren't there, then at least eliminating a bit. Susano and Amuzin Cobb. And now this kind of begs the question here, Gore, because Amuzin Cobb was such a potent mid laner when it came to the World Championships. Do we see the Amuzin Cobb go back into mid lane today, or do you think that Sodos is going to hold on to the Soul?
Man, that's a hard question, because Sodos loves Soul. And it's very difficult to, like, if I was playing this draft, I want the Soul going into the duo lane. But if I'm playing with Sodos on my team, I don't know how easily I'm convincing him to stop to give up the Soul. That's going to be, I think, the biggest question. I think AMC Horus could be an interesting duo lane. It definitely would pack a punch. So would Soul Horus, right? And I think having that magical damage with that physical damage over in the long lane would be helpful dealing with some of the supports in that carry early on. I think this Amuzin Cobb has just been really, really, really prominent in mid. But how he does against Thoth is a whole other conversation. Thoth is kind of a bully, and he kind of frags in mid lane right now.
Yeah, once he gets, like level 4 or so, that's when Thoth can really start to pop off in that mid lane. But probably the most interesting pick out of this entire draft.
Yeah, man.
Naja locked in at the end of the day. Now, we've seen some success out of Naja in the jungle.
There's 3 people who can jungle and 3 people who can support on Samsara.
And technically, probably 2 of them who can solo.
Yeah.
If you, I don't know how well the Naja solo works. My buddy Bryce would say it's one of the best solos out there, but then I would call him crazy, even though he does well with it. But Cabrakan Fenrir potentially over towards solo and then jungle support. Naja jungle support that we've been seeing a distinct lack of Naja support as of recent. It's mostly in kind of more recent times here. It has been in the jungle role. So I don't know exactly which of these 2 assassins is going jungle, Gore.
You know, and this is where we get into the fun conversation. I'm not going to try to predict it. I'm just going to talk about what both of them can do and which one I think I would hate to play against more, because I like playing Horus. And I feel like Naja would be a little more irritating, right? Because Horus, his dash is relatively slow until you get his heal online. You've got Prot Shred, but like a lot of your abilities require you to get into like the fight, into the fray. If you get ring tossed, slowed, all of a sudden you're trying to escape. Hey, I get my dash. Okay, I'm sashed. You can't escape there. And I feel like that would be a little more irritating than Fenrir, who has that conditional stun based on his passive, and it's all on his leap. You know, I mean, Fenrir has a lot of chase potential, but I think having the CC that is immediately in Naja's kit would be frustrating in the dual lane. Now, I do still think Fenrir support's just nuts, so at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. It's just fun to play, and I think it, you know, comes into pairing with Medusa. I think having a stun readily available on the Sash is going to work well with Medusa's ult, but having a Ragnarok that works well with Medusa's ult. So both of them, I think, synergize pretty well on their side. Both of them can do pretty well against Horus as well as a support and control that, but I think the Naja is my personal favorite of the two, but also I completely neglected Kabrakan over there and watched that's what's going to end up happening. And guess what? He has the regular stun. He's got good trimmers, good CC. It's just going to be fun for Samsara. This is a really good draft that can shuffle around. It's a little squishier overall, so early on I think you have to be careful, but Soul, AMC, Susano, like they all want a little bit more time to get going.
JUSTF6 versus Samsara, elimination match on the line. Who's going to take game one? Let's find out.
We're starting our day off with a little bit of heat, a knockout best of three between JUSTF6 and Samsara. There's Vibe and Myth, Mass Killing Lastimics. Going to take a peek on the Samsara side of the jungle, won't find much. And the Susano pick, Myth, is something that we've seen a little bit so far this weekend. The playmaking potential, really out of both of these junglers, at an all-time high.
Okay, well, all-time high playmaking potential for a Naja jungle. Again,
all-time high.
Look, I like it. I like Naja jungle just as much as the next guy, which is not very much.
All-time high.
Pretty low on the tier list. There's good setup, I suppose. Jengaru and Briz are going to be a threat together.
I'm talking sashes over the wall. I'm talking.
That doesn't happen. You don't.
Right, but you know, the potential.
Yeah. There is none. You can't do that.
Yeah, you know, maybe Jengaru makes it happen somehow.
If Jengaru makes it happen somehow, I have a personal guarantee to you and chat. I will get this team banned.
Okay, great. That's a Mifflin guarantee. Those are worth their weight in gold, by the way. Doesn't happen often. Jokes aside, Miff, you looked at these two junglers then. All right, let's talk about the difference then. Playmaking potential from the Susano as an early Frenzy use. Toddy takes half of his health on this jump in from Privative. And Frenzy will go by the wayside. Toddy will sustain back up. A little chaotic right off the bat.
Yeah, maybe Privative thought that the Archers were going to clear out a little bit sooner. Had he ticked over to 2, Brutalize would have finished off that kill, or maybe just happy to take the 50% HP trade for his Frenzy. Interesting. But yeah, to talk about the junglers, the power curve is Mass Kill has decent displacement pre-5, but after level 5, Jengaru is going to be a massive threat.
That's what you expect in this lane. Lots of jumping in from both a Horus and a Fenrir. They have bought time, though, for Jengaru to rotate right on through. Stun is there. Sash.
Oh, you were right.
Right through the lane, baby. Playmaking potential. Come on, Jengaru on the board first.
Look, Naja's not bad. He's got good CC, good slows as well. The damage output, especially
right
when you're just
over
trading.
the wall.
It was not over a wall. The ring toss connects with both. And now Samsara in a very good position to leverage its highly aggressive support. Privative can get involved easily.
Riz walks forward into the pull. Jengaru from the jungle hits the sash on Maskill, who has to burn the beads. This is a trend we have seen with this Samsara team over the last couple of matchups, even in a losing effort up against the Oni homies. I feel like Jengaru has really stepped up in jungle play and really impressed me so far here this weekend, and off to a very similar start already with a kill and beads burned. Shinigami buying some time, though, for Privative to rotate back in. Full rune stun is going to get Rotwin melted down, and guess who is here? It is Jengaru.
No.
But I don't think Rotwin and Toddy know it. Sash connects again. Rotwin does have the dash, and nearly another kill for Samsara, but Shinigami once more dashes in, finds the kill. No stun on the back end, but Privative jumps right on through. It's a bloodbath on left, and Samsara's got 3.
This has been Samsara's win condition all week. Aggressive dual lane play. A lot of emphasis from Jengaru over here as well. And now Shinigami
making potential.
You know, leave him, he's all right. He's a level down. Okay, Jengaru spent a lot of time ganking, so now maybe Maskill can make his presence known. But you don't want to make your presence known in the lane against a head Shinigami and a head Privative, both playing highly aggressive picks with good CC potential. Maybe JUSTF6 may have missed the bus here. I think you kind of just have to slow down the dual lane, play passively, and try and find your wins elsewhere on the map.
I feel like this whole team, Samsara, has impressed me so far this weekend. Shinigami as well, and in individual moments, has made some absurd plays. Privative has really stepped up to the plate.
Privative's been nuts all week.
Agreed. Privative has put on a wonderful performance so far this week. Briz and Snatty as well have slotted into this team nicely. JUSTF6 has also stepped up. This is a team built largely around chemistry and longevity of playing together. Communication lines being very clean. Might need some here as Snatty being looked at by Maskill, but Susano will still leave empty-handed and it's going to have to hopefully farm up, look elsewhere. Briz could be a target myth, but still has those beads, has the dash away as well. Maybe a bait from Listimics here. Snatty gonna get the kill first though. Dazzling offensive, finds a stun. On the other end, that's a pull in the Tremors will do nothing, and Maskill gets JUSTF6 on the board.
Man, the dazzling offensive matchup into Gabrakan is so nice, right? Snatty's gonna finish off the majority of his kills as Gabrakan with those Tremors, but the ultimate from Amaterasu just allows you to reposition so easily. It also cancels out that ability. Not many soul laners, not many warriors rather, are going to survive the situation that Snatty had just put Listimics in. And even then, Listimics with superior survivability only just does that. He only survives. It's up to Maskill to make that rotation and really make Snatty pay for it.
We're getting Maskill off to a good start, especially on the Susano and the backline killing potential of this pick. Always going to be good for JUSTF6. Listimics as well on this Amaterasu, the ability to kind of rally around that pick. Just increased in potential when Listimics is doing fine in lane. 1 level lead now for the Amaterasu, and it feels like this is the build we've seen on Ama when we have seen Ama. Myth is starting off either the first or second item with the Shogun's Kusari at some point. Obviously find some value for Ama herself, but then the rest of the team.
Yeah, and then you want to go into that Berserker shield, really start to elevate that damage output. That's when Amaterasu becomes a legitimate threat on the map, has good solo potential, rotations become incredibly strong as well. And you're generally going to see that second item finish up around that 8-9 minute mark, which is when the Pyromancer starts spawning, when you can start looking towards these objectives and utilizing the passive of Amaterasu to start shredding these neutrals. When you've got something like an AMC in mid to back that up, you've got threat on both sides of the map. Either it's going to be a double Hunter group up on the Gold Fury, or it's going to be Ama and AMC on a Pyro, going to keep Samsara guessing.
Maskill walks face first into a sash from Jangaru. The heal not enough though, and Soto snags the kill onto Jangaru. Uncharacteristic mistake from the Samsara jungler. Frenzy gets used on the back end by Privative. That's a good rotation in from Rotwin as well. Off to an 0-2 start this game, grabbing an assist. Decent chunk there from Shinigami. And Myth, that's a glimpse into what we might need to be worried about on the left side of the map. Sure if Privative is in some trouble here. Stinger connects, chunks down some damage. But Shinigami left alone in this lane, already chunking damage out of Toddy. Might need a little bit of help here if Shinigami isn't going to start to snowball this.
It's about a level and a half lead for the Medusa of Samsara, and that's a god that can really, really get aggressive with even a slight lead. The dash in, the lacerate, the Viper shot, going to do major damage to Toddy at any point. I think you could potentially have Maskill rotate over with his lead, but it's still a tough task.
Rotwin followed through the dash with the Brutalize. Should be a kill here, and Shinigami is the one who grabs it. 2-0-2 on the Medusa. What's the value of draining the shrine there, Myth, trading out your life for? We think there's some value in him. I guess we're gonna find out. Privative might think the same thing. It's worthwhile. Both supports not getting away with it, and so value exchanged.
Yeah, we talked to Monster Bomber earlier this week, and he said, look, if you're a support, just int for these flowers, right? Just walk up, die. As long as you're getting the flowers, it's gonna be fine. Neither support gets any of the flowers. Both die. It's not going to stop him from keep trying, though. Jangaru going to rotate over. And that is the relative strength of the Scepter, right? It does so much damage. It makes your supports that much more threatening as well. When you're playing these aggressive style supports, both Rotwin and Privative would really benefit from that additional damage. We'll see if it's worth.
Uh-oh, Jangaru needs some help here. Shinigami's around the corner. And a ult away. That's a Windfire Wheels used defensively by Jangaru. Haven't seen it used aggressively yet. And Jangaru just ticked over to level 8, and that's something you mentioned earlier on in this game, Myth, was that Jangaru had been so active at the detriment of building up farm, though. So Maskill just a second ago had a full 2-level lead as Jangaru reaches level 8. Maskill might be able to reach that level 10 mark before Jangaru takes over as well. So in the jungle right now, JUSTF6 probably feeling comfortable.
Yeah, I think so. Samsara are playing very hesitant around their CC. It's something I've been talking about Samsara's drafts in particular all week, is that they've got a lot of heavy CC abilities that are single target. You got to be willing to just toss them out.
That's a jump in by Privative. Ragnarok is there, but there's not enough damage to get the kill onto Rotwin, and Toddy is just swinging from the back here. Privative taking more chunk damage, I think, than anticipated. Maskill off to a 201 start, rotates to left as well. Won't be any further killing on left, but Maskill's going to be behind Jangaru depending on positioning here. The Najat will make it back to mid. Watch out, Horus is here. It's going to be behind Briz, going to be behind Jangaru. Who is the target? Briz is in the mid. Beads used by both jungle and mid laner. But on the wrong side of the map is Jangaru. You have Windfire Wheels. You'll use it to dash away from the Typhoon. Dazzling offensive from solo lane. And Jangaru's got no real chance here. Silence gets it done. And a stun from Snatty just keeps Rotwin where he is.
And may be able to separate the fight, but the wall is just not good enough. Rotwin able to slip his way through, but the hero, Shinigami, on tour. He's on the right side of the map. He might find Sodos.
He could. Sodos, remember, relatively immobile on this AMC, has beads. But Shinigami will come up empty-handed, and that's a full wave crashing into the tower of Samsara's duo lane here, and another wave is going to start to make its way over there as well. This is a costly rotation from Shinigami if you're not able to find much. Maybe get some mid-farm. Could get some pressure on this tier 1 tower.
Yeah, but that just zoned Briz completely, which I suppose is okay, considering Briz is already nursing
Like 2 full
about
waves.
a 1-level lead. Yeah, 2 waves. Briz misses in mid, 2 waves in duo that Shinigami misses out on as well, which has closed up a lot of that gap. Toddy GR now equal levels. The Shinigami was a 2-level lead just a moment ago for this Medusa. I want to see these teams start grouping up on the objectives. It's a lot of kill focus from both squads right now, but really no separation.
Snatty's had a real hard time in this lane. Celestial Legion Helm was helping earlier, but Listimics, with a little bit of help from Maskill early to put pressure on the right side of the map, has just put Snatty behind. 1.5 level lead, we'll call it, for Listimics. Was 2 just a moment ago. And the core of that Amaterasu build has connected now, Myth. You got Shogun's Kusari into the Berserker Shield, and that's why you see Listimics able to push that lead just a little bit further. Some hovering around the Gold Fury, but with the way that these two teams play, it's going to be more of a concerted effort to shred it down if you're JUSTF6. Samsara does have that steal potential, though, if you're looking at objectives.
Where'd he go?
Speaking of shred, Snatty can't catch a break on right. Now 2 levels behind. But I think you look at objective, Myth, especially with the Gold Fury coming up. Briz with that steal potential, JUSTF6 with that shred potential. I think could be some fun interactions.
Yeah, and it's not just steal potential, it's secure. It's a weighted
Secure,
coin
for sure.
toss for Samsara if they do decide to leave it up to that 50-50. Briz beats out just about every individual member of JUSTF6 in damage. Maybe Maskill can match up slightly to that damage that Thoughts got through his own ultimate. So I would have liked right there to have seen Samsara even pull the Gold Fury in response to that double man presence on the right side.
Derivative, double stun. Ragnarok waits out the beats from Sotos. Gotta be a kill here if you're Samsara, and it is. It's Briz who grabs it. Nice double knockup though on the rotation in from Rotwin. Windfire Wheels up, and Jangaru will crash back down, but we've left him alone. Jangaru left alone to die. Samsara gets one, but immediately trades back out as their jungler falls.
Curious, Briz had access to the ultimate there, doesn't use it off the Windfire Wheels, maybe wants to freehand it on Maskill, but decides he doesn't like his odds lining that one up. I'm not sure if Jangaru's ultimate would have killed with the help of Briz's. It was about a 50% HP Rotwin on the other side, but I feel like the opportunity cost is pretty low there. You're not concerned too much with JUSTF6 going towards the objective, considering their HP bars as they were. Maybe a miscommunication between the Naja and the Thoth.
This just feels bad for Snatty. I mean, blue buff consistently under pressure. Thank God Snatty's at least able to grab that, because the Listimics has just taken over on the right. And that's maybe the next worrying trend that Samsara has to be mindful of, Myth, is when it becomes solo lane rotation time. Listimics has got this big lead, big impact on these fights. I mean, if Snatty's able to get off some burst damage on a squishy target, maybe you're able to equalize some of that. But at least in lane, it's felt pretty bad. That feels pretty bad for Jangaru. Sash gone, solo kill for Maskill. And after an incredible start for Jangaru, Maskill has just flipped the jungle around. And I'm sorry, Briz, I think you're going to be in for a world of hurt here. Final Judgment flies in. Doesn't grab the kill, and it's a double kill for Maskill. 6-0-2 for the JUSTF6 jungler.
Man, Jangaru was microseconds away from getting the Windfire wheels back and available. Likely would have survived that ultimate from Maskill if that were the case, but instead, just a little bit off the mark. And now JUSTF6 are able to pick up the first neutral objective, but not without cost. Samsara may be able to find the more valuable of the two.
Toddy gets walled off by Snatty on a rotation over early in this fight. Ultimate down, Gold Fury reset though. Shinigami's gotten the kill. Can't keep the Medusa out of your eyes if you're JUSTF6. You gotta put pressure on the back line, but Shinigami doesn't have ultimate in the sticks. Can just walk him down here. No
He's
dazzling offensive. That's a nice silence. Aegis out from Shinigami. Tower shots onto Listimics. Listimics might just be able to turn this around. Frenzy popped by Privative as well. And just the presence of this Amaterasu myth has forced Samsara back at every turn.
And JUSTF6, with that space, is able to pick up the Gold Fury for themselves and then immediately reset, is what I would have said had they not gone deep into the enemy jungle and tried to find a little bit more on the other end. Desynced neutral objectives, no response from Samsara now. Largest separation we've seen so far, approaching that 2.4K mark. Let's take a look back. Give me that chair one action.
Why'd you even give it to me? The replay had started. Go.
No, you do it. Do the thing.
Wait, what? You waved your hand for me to give it to you.
Wait, what?
Miff,
Whoa, you're lying to the fans at home?
All right, whatever, Miff. Yeah, Maskill has started to play really well here in this game, Miff. And I think is this side?
Oh, he teleported past it?
Oh, that's nuts.
That's so cool,
I was
actually.
wondering how it didn't kill him. I didn't know where the damage had gone. Well, it didn't hit. Maskill teleported in, and you got to do that. And you know what, Miff? A mechanical jungle high-tier smite player like yourself
Whoa, thank you.
could have been breaking that down in the moment if you had taken it.
But you did it perfectly. You teleported past the ultimate, man.
Okay.
Yeah, you nailed it.
I guess we both figured that out at the same time. You wouldn't have had much more foresight. But I think the continued trend, though, and the big takeaway in the first 15 minutes of this game is that Maskill has taken things over. I mean, think about the first couple of minutes where Jangaru was all over the place. Duo lane, mid lane, back to duo, burning beads, getting kills, assists. Maskill, steady, farmed up, got some of the core of the build online, and now just feels relentless. Got a 2-level lead.
I think it's just like a jungle character tier list thing, right? I mean, Susano is going to scale a lot more quickly, especially considering he's gone for the power style of build. Naja is a god that is really dependent on just applying that CC and facilitating your allies. We haven't seen too much of that. Whoa! What did he hit him with?
Everything!
Was that just like 2 crits back to back with like 20%?
Must have been Crusher plus what I've got with Wind Demon.
That is nuts. Toddy was
you
not
know
allowed
what?
to play.
I'm feeling a little vindicated right now, Miff, because I said it's a worrying thing if Shinigami is just going to be able to be left alone in this lane, might be able to snowball things.
He
Started
is.
to happen. Also a snowball, though, in the JUSTF6 jungle. Mass kill with a real good look at a solo kill on Snatty. And the Cabrakan has just not been able to survive. And maybe worst case scenario, it goes over to Listimics, who's already got a 3-level lead, and that's just going to grow out. And so how many times have we seen this story? Despite amazing play from every member of Samsara, it feels like Shinigami is going to be the final raid boss here that stands between Game 1 and JUSTF6.
Man, it really is up to Shinigami at this point. He's the only one who's like legitimately winning these 1v1s consistently. He might be able to take mass kill in a fight as well, as long as he's able to maintain that luck that we just saw, that crit luck that we saw up against Toddy GR. But it's going to come down to Jangaru finding some farm and burning these beads a little bit more consistently.
Soto's patient on the beads, and make no mistake, Briz will hit this one. Rotation in from Rotwin, though. Ultimates have been used, and so maybe a bit crippled on the back end of this fight are Samsara, but it's a blink away from Jangaru, and that's a clean kill. That's what Samsara needed. A kill somewhere else besides the left side of the map, and they'll snag one onto Sotos.
They will, but there's nothing left on the map for them to go towards. Gold Fury, Pyromancer, still not here, and no real opportunity to go for some jungle camp invades. Maybe Shinigami can make something from nothing, though.
We're going to see it again. Yes.
Oh my god!
What is that, half HP on the... Well, luckily, Disapparated and Aegis are there, but Shinigami has got his ultimate, and so you can send that right back through in this lane. So Toddy's got to be real careful about where you're positioning here. Listimix, I think, teleports in to the left side of the map even as well. It's just a continued pressure of Shinigami on the left side of the map is lessening pressure elsewhere.
Every single auto attack I've seen Shinigami connect with an enemy god has been a crit so far. I don't think he's hit Toddy GR for less than half of his HP with a singular one of these autos. Unfortunate for the Soul player, and it does force out Listimix teleport, who just has to go over and make sure that Toddy GR doesn't die alone in his tier 2 tower. That is massive what Shinigami is doing for his team, just creating space on the map.
Pyromancer pulled by JUSTF6. Samsara soft rotation over, but Shinigami is back, farming the green buff, and so there was no fight to be had. You gotta have your Medusa here in these fights. Jangaru just cannot catch a break. Listimix into the dazzling offensive, mass kill in on the back end, Typhoon sent, and now Jangaru is dead. But here comes the back line of JUSTF6, and the re-engage is in, and JUSTF6 rally around their support, and they will find 2 more kills.
Man, you need, if you're Samsara, Shinigami to make some of these rotations. Briz was pretty slow on the uptake to get involved in that fight as well. Masskill dives deep into the backline alone for about 6 seconds. That should be enough to find a response, but Samsara not willing to dig in their heels, not willing to take that engagement without their carries in range, and Shinigami decides, I'm not rotating over towards that. It's too far away. I won't get there in time. Decides to go back into the lane. He can't stay there either. He pushes one wave, and by the time he's done doing that, JUSTF6 have already made the rotation over towards the Fury. That is tough macro play for Samsara.
Look at the golden XP though. I mean, the individual leads that Samsara have kept the XP close to even, and the gold, only at 500 or so. And that really, I think, identifies how important Shinigami is to this
He's
game.
massive.
Briz as well has got a lead over Sotos. Net worth, you look over there on the left, about 1,000 gold, a little under 1,000 for Shinigami, a 1,000 or so, maybe a little under for Briz, and so that's why the golden XP isn't quite as out of control as the rest of this game might seem. You've got to play around your carries if you're Samsara. You got to look for some engage. The good news is you talk about engage and setup myth for a final judgment for a Thoth for the damage from Shinigami. You got Ragnarok, Sash, Windfire, Wheels. It's there, just about making it stick.
But the weakness of Ragnarok and Windfire Wheels is the single target nature of those abilities. Look at the beads of JUSTF6, only 1 set down right now. Doesn't matter how strong your CC is if you can't use it. And so far, we really haven't seen that level of setup. It's been a couple of Ragnaroks here or there, but over the course of 20 minutes, you'd expect to see more.
Wow, and this is pretty telling. Either Samsara don't know this is happening or they don't care.
Well,
now they know, and JUSTF6 take down the FG, but it is too late. Samsara are here after the fact, and the re-engage from JUSTF6, it is way too fast. It is way too swift. Jangaru melts alongside his teammates, and I don't think Shinigami's got much to say about it. You're gonna knock down the level 20 Medusa. If you're JUSTF6, no one will fall, and JUSTF6 running away with game 1.
And now the tier 1 tower should fall shortly after as well. Samsara just so slow on the rotation in. Snatty walks in alone, tries to find that steal potential, can't fault him for it. You need that steal if you're Samsara. But the rest of the team sticking around to try to defend him may have cost him the game.
JUSTF6, full 5 with Fire Giant, walk into the Titan room. Briz has final judgment, has damage, has a dodge, but you gotta make it all stick. Final judgment.
It's Privative.
Will get sent through. Rotwin dies. The Titan wails away, grabs one. Privative back from the respawn, but the rest of the damage from JUSTF6 on the Titan. In game 1, over to JUSTF6 over Samsara.
Look, Samsara established their leads. They had massive leads on the map. 2 to 3 levels in mid around the 15-minute mark. 3 to 4 levels in the duo lane at the same point. But what happened? Samsara did not rotate their leads. They didn't bring those advantages to the team fights. It was JUSTF6 starting every single engagement wherever they wanted. And they said, okay, I mean, sure, Shinigami would one-shot us. Crazy that he's not here, though. Lol. And they just W key in.
Never saw the Medusa outside of lane, it felt like, throughout that game. And the way, the fork in the road that the junglers faced this game, where it felt like everything early was going Jangaru's way. And then Masskill just kind of took the other exit and kept up farming and chilling and hanging out. And then the kill started to roll, and then the Susanoo by the end of the game. The leads were in mid and ADC, right, for Samsara. but like equivalent leads, it felt like, in jungle and in solo lane for JUSTF6, and that ends up winning the day here in game 1. Samsara trying to stave off defeat and knocking themselves out of the play-in tournament here for Season 9 of the SPL. Game number 2 coming up next.
I won't make it easy for you now. You got 2 minutes of my time, and I don't really break too easily, but I'm worth it, 'cause I'll slip into your dreams tonight. Oh, so give me your all. I'll take it to Mars. Oh, I'll stick like glue inside your mind. Just watch me breaking your sweat. You're falling into me, touch me. I swear you would do anything that I want, so keep us awake till the dawn. Baby, feel free. I wanna make you sweat on me. I wanna make you sweat on me. I got you wrapped around my finger, but don't you try to call me tomorrow. There's nothing personal in having a little fun. You wait and see if it's worth your while. So give me your all. I'll take it to Mars. Oh, I'll stick like glue inside your mind. Just watch me breaking your sweat. You're falling into me, touch me. I swear you would do anything that I want, so keep us awake till the dawn. Baby, feel free. I wanna make you sweat on me. I wanna make you sweat on me. watch me breaking. I swear, you're falling into me, touch me. I swear, you would do anything that I want. So keep it so.
Welcome back. Game number 1 done. JUSTF6 coming out on top in a back and forth, really kind of exciting early game out of these two teams. But it will be JUSTF6 coming out on top at the end of the day. It puts them one step closer towards moving on in this tournament. And now Samsara have a couple of questions that they have to answer, a couple of things to change up here in game number 2. Otherwise, Gormizer, their tournament life could come to an end just right here.
And that's a huge deal for them. Again, this is a team that I had high expectations for, and unfortunately that game, like it started out really well for them, and then it just starts to go wrong, right? I mean, Mifflin had even said it at the end of the cast. They have the level leads, they have some of the control, but you can see it start to slip through their fingers. JUSTF6 are really good around the objectives play when they finally grouped up as a team. It was almost exactly the way you needed it to be, like Voltron style. Hey, all of these individual picks were all kind of behind, but as a team, as a unit, it really did stand up and beat out what Samsara had been able to draft. And despite those deficits, they were able to step up and really find a lot of golden opportunities for themselves to open up those objectives and these team fights a lot more. And that's something I was worried about. I mean, I mentioned it with Horus, but like Amaterasu's been in there. I think Osmuz and Cobb, at least in mid, deserves to be in that conversation of like, they're going to be all right early on, but like, they're not going to win you the game from early on. But when you can hit, 13 plus minutes, 14, 15 minutes into the game, all of a sudden you've hit your power spikes at least enough to be able to go in and win some fights. And lucky for them, they were not necessarily carried, but at least dragged to that portion of the game despite the deficits, because Maskill just had some nuts plays. And if this is the one, this is the one I'm thinking of. Teleports past the ultimate shot, which I have never seen before.
That's wild.
And do not think I'm ever going to be able to see again. How the spacing and the timing and the capabilities of that being reproduced is so difficult to get in a competitive setting that I do not think we're going to see that again for 8 years or whatever. It's going to be absolutely wild, and it's nuts that you got things like that. And a play like that, staying alive, getting a kill, and causing that much trouble, I think Maskill at 7-2 and 8 was a huge reason this team was able to push forward. But Rotwin, Sotos, Toddy, and of course Listimix really did apply a lot. Listimix a lot. 4-0 and 6 is nothing to scoff at. The Amaterasu joining those fights later on really helped turn some of the team fights in their favor.
That play that Maskill pulls off, teleporting,
I could watch that all day.
One, that's something we could watch time and time again. It'll still be cool every single time. But two, that's something that I would try and pull off and instead teleport straight into the damage instead.
Yeah.
I'd be like,
And
I'm out, and I go right back in and just get blown up by it.
I can't, I could probably, we could pull up the telestrator. I could watch and talk about that clip for maybe not 30 minutes, at least 10 minutes though. Because the spacing has to be appropriate, right? You have to have gotten your ability off. I think he takes a couple steps back. You have to know the travel time of the Thoth ult, and you have to be able to hit it right before it hits you, but not so close that you're going to get technically in the back of the hitbox, right? It's there's just so many little things that happen in there. And I can guarantee that is an intentional play, but that is not the way, it's never going to happen that way again for you. 9 times out of 10, you die no matter what your intentions were for that. So that was just really cool. And I like seeing stuff like that.
It's always cool seeing the flashy plays like that, man. Sure, the big ultimate from max range, getting a kill is always cool to see, but sometimes just those little intricacies are always so exciting to watch out here, and it's something that we don't always get to see until we start getting to some of this top level of play. Though picks and bans, game number 2, a lot of bans looking the same here. Gilgamesh and Yamoja out of Samsara. Izanami Bastet still keeping the same trend out here for JUSTF6, and if things will hold true, I imagine we'll probably see a Circuit, but one that will be traded out here is going to be Samsara. They're going to be taking the Fenrir off the table here, and instead it'll be an Amaterasu ban out of JUSTF6. They don't want to give that one away for our first pick.
Now, I can imagine Circuit getting locked in pretty heavily here for Samsara. If not, then JUSTF6 are going to be more than happy to take it, right? I mean, they look really good on it. Same thing, though. Jangaru has looked phenomenal on that pick. I think it's interesting that Samsara take care of the Fenrir, though. I think this is a notice from them saying, like, you know what? That didn't necessarily work out of support as we want. We don't really want it for the jungle, and we don't want you to have it. We don't want you to have that flexibility in what this pick can provide. So we're just going to take that off the board, get ourselves a really strong jungle, and try to start off with our best foot forward this time around.
Yeah, I think that's the key there, is that they don't want to play this one this time. They don't want to have the Fenrir and the Circuit. The double assassin didn't quite work out for them in game number 1, so they do have the Circuit. But Cerberus, a guy who got banned away in the second half of last time, is picked up very early on in the draft here. And Cerberus is one of those Guardians, you never really need to worry about him losing the lane. He's going to be there to exist. He really comes in, you know, kind of these later game team fights, gets that big AoE ultimate, either burns beads or gets the people who end up losing their beads. But we get him picked up here very early, and coupling that with a Thoth, taking that one right away, making sure that Briz doesn't get access to that god specifically, and dangerous for him to not have that one. But let's talk a little bit about this dodgy Morgan Circuit top 3 out of Samsara here.
There's so, like, admittedly, right now, Thoth is the only person that is going to consistently have a lot of trouble with these picks that has been drafted. But JUSTF6, like, the things that then match up with this, you know, Medusa has a CC immune ult, Cerberus has a CC immune ult, so you're going to be fine in a lot of these engagements, but, like, Thoth is getting bullied. And Thoth, if he's not able to get a lot done, that takes a lot out of, I think, JUSTF6's sails. And so you've got a Circuit who's going to be able to control the duo lane and bully a Thoth when she joins the 3v3. Dodgy, who's going to bully Thoth just throughout the 2v2 into the 3v3. And then the Morrigan, who, guess what, can become Circuit or Dodgy or Cerberus. Like, this is a really good top 3 for Samsara. Problem, I said the exact same thing last time around, and unfortunately for them, it didn't really come to fruition. I think this leads to a spot where they can get a lot of early game advantage, but we'll have to see if that early game advantage can be transitioned into something a little more fruitful for them late game, because last time around, they had the early game advantage, it just fell through their fingers.
Hoyi Nike banned away by JUSTF6. 2 very strong picks. They don't quite have their solo laner just yet. They also don't have their Hunter picked up at the moment, so making sure to take away 2 strong gods in both of their respective roles. But Samsara go for Khepri. Again, another strong ban out of the support role. We've been seeing a little bit of Khepri here and there so far this weekend, but it's definitely a great god in just kind of disrupting what they want to do, which is we want to kill Thoth. We don't want somebody there to prevent us from killing Thoth, and Khepri is the perfect god at doing that.
And that's exactly what it is, right? Like, if you have Circuit, Dodgy, or the Morrigan transitioning to any of them, you have a bunch of people who are diving in and are very good at single target elimination. Khepri is really good at alleviating single target elimination, and that causes so much trouble. You know, Thoth is your example, but really anybody, right? If as you dump your entire kit into somebody, you almost kill them, they come back, and especially someone like Thoth, they then deal all of your health bar back to you. You're going to be real upset about that one. So I think that's a solid ban. Plus, it also opens up my eyes towards what they're going to try and do for their carry. I think that you have the Circuit. I have to imagine that's going to go to support. Privative had a pretty good early start on the Fenrir. And I think if you can get someone with a little bit of pressure to deal with this Medusa Horus, then you should be able to find some early kills in the dual lane.
And we were talking about Circuit and Dodgy being gods that this Morrigan can transform to bully Thoth. Well, throw an Achilles in the mix now, so now you don't even have to get his entire health bar. All you need to do is get him down to that 30%, and you can execute him instead. A lot of options up for this Morrigan just on her team alone. And then you talked about Cerberus. You can even maybe throw Horus in the mix of another god to maybe go for some bullying here. But Samsara looking at Neath right now. A hunter that we don't really get to see a whole lot of. Really kind of started popularizing herself with the Mannequin's Hidden Blade style of build, going for that one-shot World Weaver style of play.
One shot, one kill.
Sometimes it's all you need, especially when you get to that late game. Especially if you hit a Thoth who's probably not going to be building any protections, or Medusa who's probably not going to have any either. But we'll see if that does end up getting locked in here.
Okay.
And it will not be. Instead, it's going to be Rom, which I'm surprised we've seen a lack of, considering how popular this attack speed crit build meta has become.
Yeah, no, I know, right? That fits Rom like a glove. And it is surprising. Like, 'cause I want to mention Neath just because we've seen her competitively more out of mid than we really get to see. Like, even when, like, hey, all of the Hunter items are great for her, it's like, okay, yeah, but you're still, like, playing her in mid. Come on, guys. Like, your World Weaver has, like, equidistant travel to both lanes. You can help out all the ganks, things like that. And so with Morgan there, I was kind of like, all right, we'll see how it goes. I'm not going to, like, tell you how to live your life
Weavers.
here. Yeah,
Oh,
that'd be,
gross.
oh, man. That'd be obnoxious.
I didn't even think about it until that moment. That could have been double World Weaver. There was one point in time, I remember, I think it was the console at one point, was running Morrigan, Neath, Alquang, and you would just double World Weaver somebody into an execute.
Oh, no.
It was the most
Oh,
obnoxious thing in the world to deal with. But instead now here, last pick out of JUSTF6 is going to be Set. So we have Set Horus on the same team here. Just a nice little, interesting little, bit of lore there. So that nothing more than that.
They're actually working together.
They're working together this time. They have cool interactions when you both spawn into the game. They talk to each other. That's cool. I don't know where else I was going with that point here. But going back to the ROM, I'm surprised with how kind of prevalent that crit and attack speed, especially Silver Branch Bow, kind of being such a popular item. I'm surprised it's taken this long for us to see a ROM.
And honestly, I think he fits into this team comp so well. I think, like you said, he has a lot of damage that he's going to be able to provide. But on top of that, you've got these assassins that are going to get aggressive. ROM's first couple of levels aren't really great. They're not necessarily terrible, but they're not the best of the best. So I do like having the Serket to be able to kind of push that a little further. Plus his snipes are really solid. If you're able to hit those consistently throughout this game, then that could be a game changer. I like what Samsara have on their draft here.
Well, it's going to be an interesting game, to say the very least, but unfortunately, we are going to have to delay it for just a brief moment. We'll come back after a quick break and get you started on game number 2.
For someone to give me help, all I'm asking for is just some space and some time, then I'll be alright. I've been having thoughts in my mind, I can't get out. Tell me things I can't say myself, from you and nobody else. Everything is out of my sight. This is all so new to me. I can do it all in your way. Say all the things that you say. I can do it all in one night. When I go out, the light doesn't shine on me. I fade out. It's all so new to me. I need you. Someone to show me the way. The light doesn't shine on me. Shine on me, 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 shine on me. I've been chasing highs just to breathe, yeah, I need that. Take it all in now, I see what I'm asking for is just some space and some time, then I'll be alright. I've been having thoughts in my mind, I can't get out. Tell me things I can't say myself, from you and nobody else. Everything is out of my sight. This is all so new to me. I can do it all in your way. Say all the things that you say. I can do it all in one night. When I go out, the light doesn't shine on me. I fade out. It's all so new to me. I need you. Someone to show me the way. The light doesn't shine on me. I go out. The light doesn't shine on me. I fade out. It's all so new to me. I need you. Someone to show me the way. The light doesn't shine on me. Shine on me, 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 shine on me.
Yeah, pretend like you're gonna leave. Just one shot of Hennessy. Next thing you're all over me, all over me. We act like we're hard to get, but we know this is imminent. Cause we keep falling right into it, right into it. Oh, we were only fun till you show me love. You bring me up into the place I love, the place I love. I can't control myself because I'm very dust. I can't control myself because I'm very dust. I can't control myself because I'm very dust. I can't control myself. Thoughts are very I can't control myself. Thoughts are very
Hello everybody and welcome back. Sorry for the delay. We did have a banned skin pick, and so because of that, we did need to remake the game, get the lobby reset up. So don't worry, that's all that was causing our little delay here. Hopefully we should be jumping into game number 2 very shortly on. It's still J-Mac and Gormizer giving you a brief little moment before we jump into game number 2. We were kind of talking about, some of the picks that were popping out here. The ROM specifically was one that we talked a lot about. We didn't really talk about, the set kind of coming here, which is a god that was kind of going towards the hunter role for a little part of last season. We've seen a little bit of jungle out of him. But looking at the draft that's already here, it is going to be set going in jungle this game.
Yeah, and honestly, very fun. I am going to throw him under the bus, though. It's Toddy. It was the Medusa. See, you were nice, and we're just saying, hey, it's a banned skin. I'm going to point out who it was. I want you to know. Either way, no, I'm excited for this one just because of the jungle matchup that it could be. We've already seen, and just what we saw earlier, first off, what the dodgy and I would say going to translate pretty well here for Jengaru. I expect to do really well from what we've seen out of them this weekend. But masked kill on set is a very scary thought to me. I think that is something that if it gets out of hand early on, it's going to be able to control a lot of this game. And so having that early pressure, luckily having a Circuit on your side in the dual lane should help slow that down. But again, I can't help but think back to game number 1. All you need is a little bit of time, and Set does not need that much time to really start getting his power going. If you give him the opportunity to let this Horus get everything going for himself, as well as Medusa to feel comfortable, Thoth to feel comfortable after a couple of items, I think their power-ups and their power spikes on JUSTF6 are going to be very difficult to handle. Luckily, you've got a Morgan. Luckily, you've got an Achilles. You've got a lot of bullies on the side of Samsara, and some really good transition options available for you for this game for the Morgan. So I really do think that there's golden opportunities for Samsara to tie this up, but they just need to hold on to the early lead that they should be able to pick up.
I mean, we got a dangerous kind of mid-3 here out of Samsara between the Circuit, the Dodgy, and the Morgan. That is
scary.
Very hard to deal with mid-3. But then you got Thoth, Horus, and Set kind of teaming up there. The Egyptian squad all grouping up to try and face off there in the mid lane up against them. And I don't know where I'm going with kind of lore kind of nonsense out of that. I don't know where I want to go with it, but I mean, it's still, even dealing with Circuit Dodgy as a combo, and then you throw Morgan who can basically double that up, is going to be dangerous. But Samsara need a win here in game number 2 to keep their dreams alive. Can they do it?
JUSTF6, 1 game away from knocking out Samsara and moving themselves along in the lower bracket. And they've got a composition JUSTF6 do. I think they can get it done, Myth. A lot of the same ideology, I think, from JUSTF6 in game 1 can apply here in game number 2 as well. And I want to start in the jungle. Maskill has the in-your-face aggressive solo killing Susano in game 1. Could maybe say some similar things about Set here in game 2.
Yeah, Set's ability to dive and just stick around in these team fights for so long is going to be pretty good for Maskill, utilizing that high level of mobility to lock down some of these lanes as well. Going to be very nice to see. In particular, I think that Briz is going to struggle as well as Shinigami. So if Maskill wants to, can try and address the issue, the elephant in the room that is Shinigami a little bit earlier on this time around with this Set pick. But on the other side, Samsara have got aggression. That is what their draft is for. Everywhere except for mid, I'd say. You've got a highly aggressive support. Jengaru is going to hit the ground running on a god like Daji. Snatty playing Achilles has decent 1v1 potential up against Lastimics, as well as an Execute to kind of help out with this quadruple physical composition. Not really the best for defense shredding, so at least having to only do some of somebody's HP bar before you're able to kill him is going to be very nice. But my concern for Samsara's draft lies in the middle of the map. We saw multiple times this week when the Morgan gets locked in that you just sacrifice every bit of farm.
Lastimics takes a lot of damage, but returns it in similar fashion. Always important to get your damage out on the back end of those trades. Can't just take it and back away. Samsara in the duo lane, though, Myth. Shinigami, incredible lead in game 1. Privative had an aggressive game on the Fenrir as well, and has had a fantastic event so far, as we've mentioned. And so I think I have high hopes for this Circuit for Privative in this one. I expect sort of an aggressive early rotational playstyle, and I think that could benefit Samsara greatly. I wonder, though, how Sotos is going to be protected / set up for in this game, and maybe it becomes a little bit more obvious. Rotwin on the Horus, you want to compare support to support. also has the ability to jump on in, create some rotations, and create some plays.
Yeah, I think so. But you're right that Sotos is likely going to be the target of the majority of the aggression, but it's going to be hard for Briz to get involved because he's just going to get bullied like this.
Briz jumped on and mass kill off to a good start. Could it be a double? Do they have the damage? Jaikaru goes back in, and Sotos gets one. Mass kill gets one. Oh my god, and it's looking worse on the left side of the map. Primitive getting whittled down by the Harpy, and Toddy's got one. Both carries and the jungler all off to a good start.
Whew, if you are a Samsara fan, we are off to an uh-oh stinky start, man. JUSTF6 in a great position to start walking away with this one. Look, and it's exactly what I was talking about. Sotos ignores the wave there. He says, look, Briz is playing the Morgan. He can't return damage. I don't care if I take some archer shots as long as I apply my own poke as Thoth. Mass kill should be able to rotate in and finish off some of these kills. And that is not going to change at any portion of the laning phase. Briz is always going to be on the back foot.
Oh, that is brutal. Soto steals away the red buff from Briz over the wall as well. It's one of those when it rains, it pours styles of scenarios. Briz thinking that the red buff is going to be relatively easy. Sotos just sends the damage right over the wall. Now the purple buff going the way of JUSTF6 as well. Already a 1,000 gold lead. Just 3 minutes into this game. And the wrong players on JUSTF6 are ahead if you're Samsara. You know, Masskill's got a good start. Mid, ADC, the core of this map feeling fine. And at the moment, I imagine Snatty takes over to 5. He does. A crumb of an XP lead for Listimics over on right. It's about snowballing this now, and Masskill on the set. Hopefully able to get that done. Briz looking for the stun. We'll walk away without it. But the Jotun's Wrath completed Myth. Decent power spike early in this game. Difference in builds. Completed Jotuns versus Jangaru hasn't been able to go back and buy yet.
Yeah, that is massive.
It's going right.
An enormous
Okay,
start.
left.
There's no way for him to fight in. No way anybody on the left side of Samsara wants to line up against Masskill.
Watch out, the Horus ultimate from Rotwin is going to get used here as well. Shinigami melted through. Petrifying Gaze just for the damage was more than helpful there. And you hope the dominoes are not starting to fall here if you're Samsara and you've got a little bit more to go in game 2 to keep your week alive. But when Masskill took like a 2-kill lead in game 1 and just absolutely rolled out of control, nerve-wracking moments. JUSTF6 off to a fantastic start.
And not to be the doomsayer, but take a peek at Shinigami's build. He went for mannequins in the first slot.
Yeah.
That is an aggressive build. That is a build that is going to fall off pretty quickly.
Yeah, you want to use it, right.
You want to use it over the last 4 levels, right? Around level 5, 6, 7 is when you're going to start seeing a lot more value from Toddy GR's Death Toll. The sustain going to go a long way, especially once these supports start to rotate out of lane. Things are getting dangerous over here in the duo. Somebody is going to have to address these issues. Luckily, the XP gap is not super massive at this point. I think maybe about 1 level for Toddy GR after he finishes off this wave. So you're not completely out of it in the duo lane of Samsara, but you're going to need some Band-Aids pretty soon.
Yeah, of course not. You know, there's plenty of games still to go here, but if the trend continues, you know, it's been a lot of red buffs being given over to JUSTF6. Now another purple buff being given over to JUSTF6. Rotwin walking around with the Samsara red buff.
And the flowers.
And now Toddy is going to, at some point, go pick up the purple buff. And engage here. A chance for a kill as Samsara jump on Rotwin. We've seen this. Supports walking in for the flowers, but Rotwin dashes out to Toddy. And it looks like
1-2.
I'm not even sure the snipes are going to be enough there, but does set up for some further damage on the back end. Ultimate does get him out.
No way.
And Rotwin's able to live. Jangaru up into the powwow. Final Judgment doesn't get much from the mid lane, but the dive is here, and it is Masskill looking for the killing spree, but won't get it.
No, Jangaru was able to limp his way out of there, as is Privative. But at the end of the day, that was a pretty expensive 2-flower steal for JUSTF6. Rotwin forced to use the shell and the ultimate very early on. Even Sotos makes the rotation. I believe he allowed a tower wave, or a wave to go into his tower, rather, missing out on a good deal of farm there. But if you're able to pick up this Scepter pretty shortly, it should help out with this aggressive styling that we've seen from JUSTF6. Rotwin getting involved consistently, now going to have even probably some solo potential against some of the carries of Samsara once they get, what is that, 1 more flower.
Rotwin looked good on this Horus in game 1. This is not a pick we've seen very much of, Myth. You got to be able to play, obviously, around the dash and the setup and the knockup that's in that kit, but I think Rotwin has done a fantastic job playing around the repositioning of the ultimate as well. That time defensively. But in game one, we saw plenty of instances of Rotwin making plays happen in an aggressive manner with that To The Skies ultimate. Maybe just the regular old ability rotation here will get something done. No good on the stun. Privative sent some taunts there, but look at Sotos. I mean, he's able just to chunk down some damage. One rotation of those abilities, maybe another red buff invade, but everyone from Samsara is here to try to secure this one for their mid laner.
Yeah, Sotos can't reprise that same magic that we just saw and is not able to steal the red buff over the wall. And looking at Sotos' build, this is not what I would have expected. It's a lot of defense early.
Privative was hoping to help save the purple buff, but mass kill on the engage up into the sky. It was Rotwin. Where does he crash down? Toddy has already finished off one of these kills, shielding on the other end as Jangaru crashes down from the powwows. And it's another kill over to JUSTF6. In the meantime, Shinigami was able to confirm the purple buff because fighting was happening. But JUSTF6 are going to pull the Gold Fury, 7.5-minute Gold Fury up just about 3,000 gold. Shinigami has ultimate. So those snipes can connect, potentially steal something away, but JUSTF6 so clean in their communication could delay the end of this Gold Fury. You need this to happen if you're Samsara, and it does not. JUSTF6 grab the Gold Fury and cement a 3.5k gold lead at 8 minutes.
That was a close one, though. Sotos was a little bit early on the final judgment, so Samsara did have the opportunity to potentially look for that steal. It looked like there was some hesitation from Shinigami, who saw Sotos charging up the ult and said, well, I'm not out-damaging that, so just let it go. Then realizes that Sotos didn't time it properly and goes up a little bit afterward. But at the end of the day, JUSTF6 not only take a win in the team fight, take away the back camps and the green buff, but get themselves the neutral objective in the Gold Fury. A minute and a half away from Pyromancer respawning means that I don't think JUSTF6 are going to let off the gas. It's going to be pretty easy for them to keep cycling these neutrals.
Literally solo lane is all that's even. Everywhere else on the map is 1 or 2 levels ahead for JUSTF6, 2 in support, as Rotwin has been able to stay aggressive. And I think we set the stage hoping that Privative on the Circuit was going to be able to be aggressive, right? But I think just the way that this game has flowed, Myth, Privative has just not had that opportunity.
No, and the quadruple physical is really coming back to bite Samsara. That's why we see so much defense already on the side of JUSTF6. They don't have that AMC. They don't have a Nemesis. They don't have a way to shred the defense away. So every single bit of physical defense that gets stacked up is going to make every individual member of JUSTF6 a walking juggernaut.
Yep. Feels like Rotwin in a 2 versus 1 against the jungle and support returned more damage than he took there. Has the scepter, of course. Might be tower dive time on Briz. Transformation is through.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. Rotwin gets the kill. The support has been making it happen. And now snags one into the kill column. To the skies. It's gotten him out before. It's going to drop him right back down. Jangaru knocked up. And petrifying gaze from Toddy confirms the kill. It is bad to worse. And JUSTF6, even before 10 minutes, can smell themselves knocking out Samsara and moving on in the lower bracket.
They're just too tanky, man. The Rotwin's just walking into
that's
towers.
like max value of sovereignty and just now completed Breastplate of Valor. It's like absurd value out of the sovereignty so far.
Tanks the tower, eats like 3 ability rotations from 3 separate gods, even takes the true damage from Privative. It doesn't matter. The itemization that JUSTF6 have got so early on is going to make it so much harder for Samsara to fight back in. It's something, a conversation that we had last year between Aggro and I, was the relative value of going for a defensive build from ahead is so much more.
Right.
You're still playing with that scaling at this point. Each level and ability going to do more than any individual item will. So having this defense is just nearly impossible for Samsara to fight into. The only advantage Samsara can take into a team fight is a numbers advantage. They need 3 versus 1s, 2 versus 1s. 1v1s, that won't work.
And if the communication we've talked about with JUSTF6, because, you know, make no mistake, this is a team that's struggled in even the SCC last year, finishing out sets, but they've always seemed competitive.
Dude, he's just living.
I know, he just doesn't die. It's like somehow healing, like leaves this fight with more HP than he came into it with. But this is what we've talked about with this JUSTF6 team, and even themselves. In interviews that we've had with them, JUSTF6 have talked about how this is a long-term project team, and they are building up chemistry. They're building up their game plan.
That is so tough.
And it's working here in this one against Samsara. And should this game come to a close with Samsara losing, I think Samsara should walk away feeling proud of the games that they put on this weekend. Snatty's gonna have to use the ultimate to dash out of this one. No Stygian Torment for Listimics.
Good stun.
And so Snatty is not gonna get pulled back in just yet. Pal up from Jangaru. Chains are there, double pull in. But there's also an Aegis on the other side, and Maskill is just too far ahead. Tower being tanked by Listimics. And JUSTF6 are off to a 10-0 start. And if Horus is able to make plays in mid, never gonna be happy about where the Horus is on the map. But point being, Myth, as now maybe another couple of kills are gonna roll through here. Looks like Disengage gonna be successful. De-transform there from Briz as well. You know, I think up to this game individually, Samsara's had a weekend to be proud of.
I think so as well. I mean, it's hard to try and build intrigue from this point because this is a very one-sided match.
Right,
But,
I mean, we're
but
at
you're right to
6.5,
say it.
you're at 8,000 XP, you're right.
But you were right to say that Samsara has had a very strong week so far. There is some potential. It's going to come down to Briz. Briz is your guy if you're a Samsara fan right now. He has got decent fight potential. His levels not looking so good, 11 to 14, but get a couple more. Level 12, you got your secondary relic available to you now as well. Morgan is the type of god that can find this one-shot potential.
Yeah, that's true.
Nobody's going to be building a whole lot of magical defense on the side of JUSTF6. Mass kill would be an easy target for the Morgan come late game. Sodos would be as well. Toddy GR maybe a little bit less so because the dot damage is going to make it very difficult to use your stealth. Thought maybe Privative was in some trouble there. Rotwin could not get the knock up in time. So Samsara fans of the world, put your hands together, raise them to the sky, give Briz your energy, and hope he can do it.
Does feel like Morgan in a spot now, especially with some decent transformation options on the JUSTF6 side. Could make some plays happen. Can it happen around the Primal Fury? I would say positioning tells us no. And JUSTF6 are going to grab this Primal Fury. Privative has eyes for Sodos here, but will dash away. Listimics is rotated over from the solo lane, though. That means JUSTF6 have the advantage. Primal Fury on over to JUSTF6. And Samsara, I think, happy just to farm up and try to keep things interesting. Will the back be completed on one side of the map? No is the answer. You're going to get a kill on left if you're JUSTF6. You will get a kill in mid if you are JUSTF6. And the speed buff at least taken down by Jangaru. First kill of the game, maybe.
Oh, good
As
body
Sodos
blocks.
is being run down, but Listimics will body block through the range
That's it.
damage. There it is. Snatty has got it, and Samsara finally on board.
More?
Could be a second as Listimics is going to get run down, and Briz, the one who you need to step up, is at least able to assist in a kill here, at least able to grab a kill for the Samsara team. So signs of life from Samsara at 14 minutes.
This is a situation, I think, where had Samsara been grouped just a little bit better on the right-hand side, you have to go for like a Hail Mary Fire Giant or something along those lines. That's the difference we're seeing in farm at this point. As yeah, that's a simple 3 versus 1.
That's a 3 versus 1, right?
Yeah, Shinigami does not. He wasn't even able to get up to the sky there. But Samsara is in a Hail Mary situation. They need to be going for wild haymakers and hope one connects with the chin. If that's grouping up as 5 and going into the enemy jungle, if that's just going for these crazy Clow-style Fire Giant calls, so be it. But as of now, these small little takebacks aren't going to close up this gap.
Well, is there any hope, as Shinigami will die here shortly, might get some damage, maybe a little bit of farm, but he'll get knocked up. The Aegis will buy a little bit of time. Makes things interesting with some damage on the other end, but did buy time for Privative Jangaru to rotate through Toddy. Taunted back in, but we've seen this story before. Rotwin to the skies will keep his ADC on the map. So it's a 2 versus 1 on a Shinigami and then a rotation back in. Unfortunately, that means JUSTF6 smell blood in the water, and Mass Kill is relentless. It's a rundown onto Privative, and JUSTF6 will get 1 clean kill.
Yeah, I think JUSTF6 are suffering from success right now. There's not much that they can do to keep pushing. Tier 1 tower is already removed. Gold Fury dead. Yeah, go ahead.
Say we're not going for Hail Mary plays. Say Samsara, right, Samsara's not going for Hail Mary plays. How likely is it that we're able to just farm up and delay the game to a point where we all hit level 20 and builds start to level out a little bit?
Well, XP's getting bad.
This is ignoring a Fire Giant.
Yeah.
I assume for JUSTF6. Minimal opportunity,
Yeah,
I would assume.
you know, the odds are low, but never zero.
But never zero. A Fire Giant steal would be a fantastic way to get a comeback started, but JUSTF6 pull off the FG, Privative in, and Privative goes down. Snatty now being chased down by 5 members of JUSTF6. Execute will dash
Good
Snatty
stun.
away. There's a stun from Rotwin, who's been on point with this Horus. And we are already in the FG pit. Let's just turn our eyes there and take down the big one. 2 kills plus a likely Fire Giant for JUSTF6.
And Samsara's best steal potential is on the opposite side of the map. They're going to go ahead and let this one go away. Rotwin to the skies just to
We're
make
going to
sure
min-max.
that no one's nearby.
No, we're going to the tier 2 tower.
Oh
We're
my
going to
God.
min-max this moment. I don't want to waste time walking. We got Fire Giant. We got to get every ounce, every second off our Fire Giant buff. And we will stroll on down to the right side Phoenix.
Surely
no
not.
Snatty for 15 seconds. JUSTF6 in 17 minutes have cracked the base of Samsara. Privative hopelessly looking on from the backside. And this is telling. Wondered if we might see a continued extension from JUSTF6, but no, we will take the right side Phoenix. Should hopefully go back and buy some items with the 1,000+ gold everyone has. And then maybe re-pressure with the last 3 minutes of our Fire Giant.
They legitimately do not need to back. Their builds are so far ahead at this point. The experience is so far ahead. Fire Giant on 5 members. Might as well collect all the gold before you head back. Finish up some entire items. Tier 2 tower in mid. A foregone conclusion. Nobody from Samsara anywhere nearby to defend. And even potentially a Phoenix here. They did just spot Jengaru on the left-hand side.
Privative
Can they walk
behind.
in?
Privative behind Toddy. There's a taunt on the carry, but that means Privative is on the wrong side of this fight. Be able to dash away. Final Judgment flies on in. JUSTF6 have the damage. Low health bars on the mid laner, but Jengaru not able to finish it off. Rotwin, the Horus with the double kill. Sotos does have to back away from this fight, but it looks like JUSTF6 have the numbers, have the damage to consider continuing to push on after this one. Mass kill, unstoppable. Runs down one more. JUSTF6 in 18 minutes will send Samsara home.
That is so tough, man. Just early game mistakes that snowball out of control so quickly for JUSTF6. 18-2, 20 total kills. What do you do about that? Samsara,
I don't know.
That is not a set that speaks to the talent that we've seen
agree.
from this squad all
I
week.
agree.
That is just a tough break.
It is a tough break, and before we heap praise on JUSTF6, which is much deserved,
They went crazy.
I think Samsara had a fantastic event here. You look back to the Oni Homies set that Samsara had yesterday. That's a 2-0 set, 2-0 loss for Samsara. But there are moments all throughout that game where you're seeing a team that's able to compete with the overall tournament favorites, a team that heavily competed at the SPL level last year in the Oni Homies. So I think, obviously, the Samsara team will be disappointed as individuals. But from a neutral perspective, I think you've got to be proud. We saw some great moments from that team, and I think individually and even as a team, they've got a bright future if they choose to stick together. But on the flip side of that coin, JUSTF6 deserves a lot of praise for everything that we saw here in this set. An amazing performance from a team that stuck together for a long time.
And to contextualize it again, JUSTF6 was a middle-of-the-pack European SCC team. I don't think I'm stretching the truth by saying that was some of the best individual performances we've seen from them as a team, or even a holistic team performance throughout the entirety of their careers. This is a very different version of JUSTF6. A lot of teams struggle making the transition to LAN, struggle kind of in these high-stakes situations.
Yep.
JUSTF6 seems like they're feeding off of it.
It's all about playing your best smite in the best moments, and this week is the best moment, and JUSTF6 looking good in the lower bracket. 2-0 win over Samsara, and JUSTF6 will move on. We'll take a break. When we come back, Dusk will break it down.
True love, this ain't right here, so I'm gonna leave you. Can be with someone who doesn't care. You're running away from our problems. So here we stand on the edge tonight. There's no turning back now. I've been weak for 3 weeks. I can't think straight, no, I can't eat. I cry and I cry and I cry and I cry. The way I cry, it's time to say goodbye. This is what love do. I'm
is what love do. I'm tired, this is how you lose. My trust for you, if only you knew. How much I'm trying, love do. I've had enough, You broke my trust. You killed the vibe. I've had enough. Won't waste my time. Love, you hit me down. Love, you hit me down. Love, you hit me down. Lost, I can't be found. Lost, I can't be found. Lost, I can't be found. Love, you make it so hard to breathe. You make it so hard to see. I'm blind. Love, you make it so hard to breathe. You make it so hard to see. I'm blind. This is what love do. I'm tired, this is how you lose. My trust for you, if only you knew. How much I'm trying, love do. I've had enough. 2 a.m. in the morning, I'm in my story smoking, catching my breath. I can feel my skin burning. You light the fire in me, got no regrets. Can't forget, you got me wrapped around it. You feel me, your body wrapped around me. Good mistakes. Oh, you got me looped about it. You and me got me losing sleep. I am in too deep, like an overdose. You're the antidote. Losing sleep, I am in too deep. No matter where I hide, you got me sleep deprived. Blow my mind with a warning. You digging deep within me. I feel obsessed. I can't help myself falling into the widest ocean again.
And what another dominant performance out of JUSTF6. 18.5 minutes is all that it takes them to clean this game up and take a nice and 2-0 victory over Samsara. And a performance I don't think that we necessarily expected, Gormizer, because when we kind of look at the compositions that were here, Samsara had gotten seemingly everything that they wanted. It seemed like it was a perfect kind of counter matchup to what was built here by JUSTF6. But JUSTF6, they came out on the battleground to play. I mean, they had 10 kills up by like 10 minutes. There wasn't even a single answer back. I think dominant is probably the best way I could put this game.
Yeah, Masked Kill was just inhuman in this game. I mean, you know, I expected something a little bit early on set we're used to seeing be pretty proactive. But this was just something different from the get-go. I mean, look at this. You jump into the first highlight. They're up 10-0. I mean, it took forever before any return kills happened there for Samsara. I think it got out of hand, and it got out of hand quickly. And then, unfortunately, when they did finally get any kills, it wasn't enough for them. I mean, it was slowing things down. There was even a point Sotos, like, at the very end, almost gets killed at the Phoenix line and still manages to walk away with, like, 100 health. It's just the moments like that and moments like this one, right, where Rotwin's able to not only set up a whole ton for them, but he absorbs, like, 3 ults, runs through, still manages to live. And that is one of those solidifying moments where you really realize that this team was never worried, right? There's no stress in their brain. They knew they were going to be able to get away with it. And they played just lights out throughout this. This is exactly the kind of performance you need if you're going to be in these lower bracket games, because this is how you win. This is how you get back to the best of fives, and this is how you can qualify.
I mean, we came into this game here looking at this and going, man, Sotos is not going to have a fun time in this mid lane. I mean, look at the 3v3 he had to go against. But they didn't really care about what was happening in the mid lane because they were just dominating.
They fought everywhere else.
They were literally fighting everywhere except for the mid lane at that point. And by the time it did get to the mid lane, Sotos already had enough farm to where he didn't have to deal with this physical comp that was just running at him. And when you build these 4 Fizz comps, we've been seeing just how important this Celestial Legion helmet has become on some of these mid laners. And it becomes even more prominent here because Sotos gets to essentially build it for free. He essentially kind of just gets to sit back and let the game happen around him as Maskill and Toddy are just storming across the map.
And you can see, I mean, anytime that your jungler is able to put up like 4 times the amount of damage, you see people on the other side. Maskill was just everywhere that was necessary, and that leads to so many leads for everybody on this team, right? Like, you have a much easier time playing against a draft that theoretically could counter you because everybody's ahead. Everybody benefited from having that set in their lane.
Well, we do have our post-game interview. We got Sotos standing by to talk to us, and Coach Alpha to help out as well. Congratulations, first off, on your win, a very dominant performance, especially in Game 2, and I think that's the one I kind of want to dial in a little bit. You know, when you first came in here day one, you know, it's adapting to what, you know, you guys kind of got blindsided by what was happening. You guys took a game to kind of adapt to it, and then you guys pull out this kind of performance. I mean, what was going through y'all's minds, you know, getting into this game and just having that lights-out performance?
I think we in the first games we didn't adapt to the obelisks in this new season obelisk, and that gives you so much snowball. Like, it gives you so much gold, and once we managed to play around that, we are just playing our duo lane and invading red buff, purple. We get the obelisk, and all my job is to pressure mid to let my team do that, and they are doing it perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, we came into this game thinking the pressure was going to be against you specifically in the mid lane with the comp that they have drafted, but, I mean, tell me a little bit about what it's like having Maskill being able to just kind of free roam the map like he did.
Yeah, I mean, my team was so clean this game. All my job was to build defense. I get the Celestial helmet, just die, cost them a lot of time to kill me, and we get ahead in mid lane with the first kill on the Morrigan, and after that, Celestial helmet is so cheap, it's cheaper than Divine Ring, so I was so tanky they couldn't kill me. I could stay in front of the tower poking Morrigan, so they couldn't defend any red buff. It was just so easy to play around that after the first kill.
Yeah, I mean, stay alive and keep them from being able to take you down, just kind of delay the inevitable here. And Alpha, kind of talking to you a little bit, you see the draft that they've built up here and kind of how it seems like it's a direct counter matchup. You're going into the game. What's some of the words of advice you gave your team as you jumped in that game?
We knew that they were going to draft a full dive because of their composition. So the only thing that we wanted to do is to engage before they engaged on us. So they had no chance of fighting us. And in terms of their picks, I think that it was pretty clear what they were going to pick, and we just had to adapt and play our own playstyle, play our own meta, and it worked out pretty well.
Well, you guys look fantastic today. Congratulations on your win. Look forward to seeing what you guys can do for the rest of the week. I'll let you get back with the rest of the team. That way you guys can celebrate.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. Just a great performance across the board there. Soda's recognizing what he needed to do there, specifically in Game 2, which is just, I just need to stay alive. I need to delay them as long as possible, and I need to make sure that they can't kill me faster than my team can kill them here. I guess I need to make sure that they can't kill me faster than they can kill me. That's the words I am looking for. I had to second guess myself there, but I mean, across the board, you heard it from the coach in day number 1. We asked him about it once again there, which is just you need to stay alive. You need to adapt to what these other teams are doing, and JUSTF6 does so perfectly today in our first set. Next setup, though, Nobody's Favorites versus the Neighborhood. Another big matchup here. The Neighborhood had a very strong performance yesterday, a very long set of games there, and the Nobody's Favorite had an unfortunate little spill during their matchup up against no, it wasn't Funhavers. It was Winter Dogs, who looked very strong in their matchup. So I'm very excited to see how this is going to break down. I mean, the whole rest of the tournament, I mean, this is anybody's game to take. This is anybody's SPL spots that are up for grabs at this point.
And honestly, he said this next one I think is going to be very interesting just because of what these two teams have been able to accomplish so far and what we've seen out of them. It has me excited to see what we're going to potentially get out of them here. But there's also that little bit of a wild card, right? Like whether or not you've been able to reset from yesterday, whether it was a loss, or if you're still riding that high for the neighborhood as a win, how that's going to affect you. Two teams, again, that don't have a lot of history against each other. It'll be fun to see how they handle each other.
Yeah, it's going to be a big one. Again, this next set is also up for elimination. Nobody's favorite versus the neighborhood coming up right after this break.